Your name has been coming up in conversations and not casually. There is someone who simply can't help but talk about you. And no, it's not trivial comments. Every word spoken seems to carry a greater meaning, something that maybe still goes unnoticed. What could be said? It might be a compliment that has been held back for too long, a feeling that is starting to overflow, or even a confession that could change everything. What is being revealed about you has the potential to transform what exists between you two. Do you want to know what's happening? This person is not mincing words. When they talk about you, there is a sparkle in their eyes, a tone that conveys something deeper. These are phrases that start almost casually, but soon it becomes clear that there is more to it than just casual talk. Words loaded with emotion, comments that reveal more than expected, almost as if each sentence were a piece of a puzzle that only makes sense if you look closely. And no, it does not go unnoticed. The people around notice. There are glances, corner-of-the-mouth smiles, that atmosphere that only arises when the subject is something important, something that carries meaning. It is almost impossible to ignore. But more than that, there is something different in the way this person talks about you. It's not just what they say, it's how they say it. Those listening to these conversations might pretend not to notice, but the truth is that the way this person talks about you conveys much more than just words. There is an implicit affection, an almost tangible respect, and maybe even something more. Something that perhaps not even this person can fully admit to themselves, and meanwhile you continue without knowing. You keep living, unaware of the impact you have and how someone is seeing you. Because yes, you are more than just a name or a memory. You are a point of reference, someone who has occupied space in this person's thoughts. And this overflows in every word they say. The conversations keep happening, and what once seemed like something casual now becomes more frequent. Once might be a coincidence, but what about when your name appears again and again in completely different situations, when everything seems to lead back to you, even if the original topic was something entirely unrelated? This is no longer just a coincidence, it's something bigger. And do you know what is the most curious thing? This person tries to disguise it, tries to turn the words into something casual, tries not to show too much. But it's useless. Those observing from the outside can see it. Those who listen know. The tone of voice changes, expressions change, even gestures change. There is a different energy in the air when you are the subject. Maybe they don't even know they are exposing themselves so much. Maybe they think they are being careful, that no one is noticing. But in reality, what is being revealed is something that seems impossible to contain. As if by talking about you, they are revealing not just words, but feelings that are there, latent, waiting to come out. And what is being said? Well, it's not something simple. It's not just praise thrown to the wind. It's deeper than that. There's a sincerity in the words, an intensity that cannot be faked. This person is not talking about you because they need to, but because they feel it. Because somehow you occupy a space inside them that cannot be ignored. And that, in itself, says a lot. Maybe someone has asked directly, "What do you think of this person?" Or maybe your name came up by chance, pulled out by some situation or comment that wasn't that relevant. But anyway, the reaction was immediate. The eyes sparkled, the voice became softer, and the words that followed made it clear that you are not just another person in her life. You are someone special. And then came the details, how you are different, how you have a unique way of seeing the world, how you manage to impact those around you without even realizing it. These were words that, even without being said directly to you, carried an admiration that was impossible to disguise. But it didn't stop there, because beyond admiration there was something more. There was a depth to the words, an intensity that didn't seem to come from just someone who likes you as a person. It was something that went beyond, something that touched on a more personal, more intimate level. Something that made those who listened wonder, does she even know what she's feeling? And there's the question, does this person have full awareness of what she's feeling? Or are the words she's saying about you just the tip of a much larger iceberg? Maybe to those on the outside it's obvious, but to her it may be something yet to be discovered, something that has not been fully named, and that makes everything even more interesting and also more complicated. Because as she talks about you, as the words flow and the feelings shine through, there is an internal struggle happening. an attempt to understand what all of this means, an attempt to reconcile what she feels with what she thinks she should feel. And you? You continue without knowing any of this. You go on living your life without any idea that someone is at this exact moment talking about you with so much affection, with so much admiration, with so much feeling. But maybe it's time for you to know. So, here's the question. How are you going to react to this? What are you going to do with this information? Because yes, what's being said about you has the power to change everything. It has the power to transform a relationship, to open doors that you might not even have known were there. And at the same time, it has the power to keep things exactly as they are. If you decide not to act, the choice is yours. So the question remains, how will you react to this? What will you do with this information? Because the truth is, as these words are spoken, while this name, yours, occupies such a significant space in this person's life, there is a story happening without you knowing. A story that didn't start now, but has been built little by little in every thought, in every conversation, in every time you were present even without realizing it. And the most curious thing about all this story has potential to become something much bigger, something that could change the course not only of this person's feelings, but also yours. Because if you stop to reflect, did you really not notice anything until now? Were there not signs, even if subtle, that there was something more in the way this person looks at you, in the tone they use when speaking to you, in the small actions that say so much even without words? Perhaps you noticed and chose to ignore it. Perhaps you thought it was all in your head, an exaggerated interpretation of gestures that on the surface seemed innocent. But if you are honest with yourself, isn't there something within you that deep down already knew there was something more? This person, right now, is talking about you again. Maybe they are surrounded by friends, maybe it's in a more private conversation. But the point is that you are there at the center of what is being said. And it's not just about recounting something that happened or making a random comment. It's about how you are described, how every detail seems to gain an importance that goes beyond the ordinary. It's not just what you do, but how you do it. It's not just about what you say, but the impact your words have. Or there's a genuine admiration, a care in highlighting your qualities, an attention to the details that to many could go unnoticed. And it doesn't stop there. Because amidst all of this, there are moments when the tone changes. There are pauses that speak louder than words. There is that hesitation, that breath before continuing, as if choosing carefully what to say. Not because they don't know what they feel, but because they know that by saying it out loud they are exposing themselves, revealing something that perhaps wasn't ready to be revealed. And this hesitation is important. It says a lot about what is happening inside this person, because what is being said about you is not just to fill the silence or keep a lively conversation. It is more than that. It is about giving voice to something that has been growing inside them, something that maybe they themselves do not know how to handle, but at the same time, there is a desire that somehow you perceive it, that even without them saying it directly, you can understand what is going on, because deep down there is a fear of being ignored, of not being reciprocated, that these words, these feelings mean nothing to you. And meanwhile, you go on without knowing, or at least without being sure. But what if you knew? If someone right now told you exactly what is happening, exactly what this person feels, what they are trying to say without words, what would you do? How would you react knowing that someone admires you so much, thinks about you this way, speaks about you as if you are someone unique, irreplaceable? Maybe it would catch you by surprise. Maybe it would change the way you see this person. Or maybe, just maybe, it would confirm something you already felt but never had the courage to admit even to yourself. Because deep down, this is not just about what is being said. It is about what can happen as a result of it. And there is another important thing to consider. Who else is listening to these conversations? Because when someone talks about you this way, it does not go unnoticed. The people around notice. They see the sparkle in the eyes, the different smile, the way the voice changes. And sometimes it leads to questions. Why do you talk so much about this person? Is there something you're not telling us? And this is the moment when things get even more interesting, because depending on the answer, the situation can intensify even more. If this person denies it, if they try to hide it, the listeners will notice. They will perceive that the response does not match the way they speak about you, with the intensity that comes through in every word. But if they admit it, well, that changes everything. And you? What would you do if you knew that, at this very moment, someone is being pressured to admit how they feel about you? Because that is the central question. You are not just at the center of this person's words. You are at the center of something much bigger, something that involves feelings, expectations, fears, and above all, the possibility of something new. And maybe, what is happening right now is the beginning of something you did not expect, but somehow was already destined to happen. So I ask again, how will you react to this? And while all this is happening, there is something that deserves even more attention. What is at stake here is not just what this person feels, but the impact it has on the dynamic between the two of you. Because words, even when spoken in another circle of conversation, carry consequences. This person is, perhaps without realizing it, leaving a part of themselves exposed each time they mention you. They are gradually opening up to those who listen. And in the midst of this, a risk arises. The more they talk, the harder it becomes to hide. Because feelings, when genuine, find a way to show themselves, even when we try to control them. And what happens when these words reach you? Because they always do, one way or another. Maybe a friend mentions it. Maybe someone repeats what they heard. Maybe a different look makes you notice what previously went unnoticed. One way or another, these words don't stay just between the one who says them and the one who hears them. They create waves. They have the power to change perceptions, to bring up questions you haven't yet asked yourself, or that you tried to avoid. And here is the central point. Why does this person talk so much about you? It's not just because you have an impact. That much is clear. But because in some way you have awakened something in them that is impossible to ignore. It could be the way you handle things, the way you smile, how you express yourself, how you make others around you feel seen. It might be something more specific, a shared moment, a conversation that stood out, a gesture that might have seemed small to you but meant a lot to them. And each time they talk about you, this person is trying to organize those feelings, trying to understand why you occupy so much space in their thoughts. Because yes, talking about you is a way to deal with it, to process. But it's also a way not to keep everything to themselves, to even indirectly bring you closer. And here is something that cannot be ignored. There is an expectation behind these words, because even if this person doesn't directly say what they feel, there is a desire to be noticed, a desire for you somehow to understand what is being said, for you to read between the lines, connect the dots, see beyond the obvious. And maybe that's why they talk so much, because there is a fear that silence won't say enough. That if they don't mention you, if they don't make it clear the impact you have, you will never know. And at this moment, there are two possible paths. The first thing is for you to find out that somehow these words reach you, that what is being said becomes impossible to ignore. In that case, the dynamic between you inevitably changes. It could be something subtle, a new care in the way you talk to each other, a greater attention to details, an awareness that something more is there, even if it is not named. Or it could be something direct, a conversation that needs to happen, a moment of honesty that brings everything to the surface at once. The second path is that you don't find out, that these words remain in the space where they were spoken, that the feelings continue being expressed only to those who are around. But even in this scenario, something changes. Because hidden feelings have the power to shape behaviors. And gradually, you will start to notice something different in the way this person looks at you, in the way they are present when you are around. Even if they don't say anything directly, silence carries as much meaning as words. And then an important question arises. What do you really want? Because, yes, there is a choice to be made here. If you know what is being said, how does that change the way you see this person? Are they someone who already occupies a special place in your life? Someone you consider? Someone you admire? Someone you might already see with different eyes? Or is it someone who, until now, seemed to be in the background, but upon hearing all this, starts to take on new meaning for you? This is an answer only you can give. But the point is that regardless of what you feel, the fact of being at the center of all this is not something that can be ignored. Because feelings are not limited to those who feel them, they affect everything around, including you. And now, you are at the center of something bigger than you might have realized. And here is another question that cannot be overlooked. What if this person doesn't speak directly to you? Because there is a chance she might continue talking about you only subtly, just to others, without ever summoning the courage to bring it up to you directly. In that case, what would you do? Would you wait for her to take the next step, to finally say something directly? Or would you take the initiative even without having all the answers, even without being sure of how she feels? Because yes, taking action requires courage, but it is also a way to avoid things remaining in limbo, feelings being set aside, opportunities being missed. And maybe, just maybe, your attitude is what it takes for all this to finally come to light. They are talking about you, and this could change everything. Want to know more? Subscribe, leave your like and comment. What would you do if you found this out?